here we have Andrew.
Andrew Shrout.
Oh, it looks like a J to me. I got a little confused.
Oh, his handwriting's not the best, but take a look at that hoodie, my friend. Magic Online Championship Series.
Ooh,
he was there at PAX East, battling it out.
Well, I like where he's going here. Although when we get to sideboarding, I'll have some words for Mr. Shrout. But his main deck looks pretty nice here, and he's battling against Josh Cho here on the left, playing Junk Reanimator, kind of the boogeyman in the room.
Now, this is not how I drew it up. I did not know this was going to be our match as I was talking about it, but it certainly doesn't hurt, as this is going to be, it's probably going to be something that does happen over the course of the format a little bit more moving forward, as we do see a Tragic Slip take care of that Arbor Elf on turn 1.
Yeah, so here we're looking at the new version of Aristocrats that Ben played as Take 2. Here we have Take 1.
Yes.
The original.
Absolutely. Same as the first, as we're going to see a Cavern of Souls here. We're going to follow up with a Knight of Infamy, a card that Friedman and some other people have cut, but you do see here, and you know, this is a card that's pretty good in the format.
All right, so when you move away from the more aggressive angle, when you play the deck more as a kind of a Blast Attack combo deck or a token aggression deck, that Knight of Infamy doesn't make sense in that kind of approach.
Sure.
But here, when you're pushing these 1-drops, you have Champion the Parish. Champion and a Knight of Infamy is a tremendously aggressive start. And also, here we see a Centaur Healer. Hey, that's a white creature.
Absolutely.
We're going to get to laugh at that guy for a little bit now.
So we do at least to get to come through and start being aggressive and keep being aggressive, as we do see that Centaur Healer. Cho going to move up to 23 here as he does play those lands and just pass the turn back. We'll see what Shrout's going to be able to muster this turn, as he does have a Blood Crypt that's going to come and play tap, coming across 4/3 with the Exalted Trigger.
Very aggressive.
Oh, well, better be aggressive, and just does pass the turn back. So I like it. No fear.
He really, yeah, I think that's an interesting line.
Dude, it's beat down a clock, man. As we're going to see a Thragtusk here from Cho, going to push himself up to 25.
He's regretting that attack now.
Maybe might want to pump the brakes a little bit. We'll see what Shrout decides to do as he does untap. He's going to draw a card here. You do see a Falkenrath Aristocrat in his hand. I think we also see a Lingering Souls there as well.
We do, but I'm not sure. Now we do see a white mana. No, we don't. We see a Cavern of Souls, but that cannot tap for Spirit mana.
And okay, now we see Isolated Chapel. All right, so white mana's online. It looks like he's going to come out with the Aristocrat. So here comes Falkenrath Aristocrat in the sky.
Take 5. Next turn he'll be taking 8. I think there's a second Aristocrat in his hand. That's a
lot more than 5.
Pretty aggressive clock there, which is what this deck does. What it does best, really.
As you do see Cho draws his card for the turn, a couple lands in his hand, also a Restoration Angel here. So we are going to likely see a Restoration Angel join the party along with what is likely going to be a Beast token from Mr. Thragtusk. And these are the draws that are a little bit scary from Junk Reanimator, because what people sometimes don't remember is that this is not a deck that needs to use its graveyard to go broken. It can just play a normal game of Magic, and the graveyard is just an extension of its hand.
Now here we see, so Cho not capitalizing while Andrew's tapped out to blink that Thragtusk. Oftentimes it's a mistake against our version of the Aristocrats from the PT. Here though, you notice Andrew's cut some of those Orzhov Shrines.
Yep.
You're talking to Sam Black about the deck. Sam Black's opinion is that that's the best card in the deck. It's literally the best card in the 75.
Wow, that's a bold thing to say.
Yeah, that card was uncuttable. And so here we see, several copies getting cut. I think it really makes spots like this worse. It's much harder to interact with that Thragtusk.
As we do see a second Cavern of Souls here from Shrout. We'll figure out what those caverns are naming. Likely one of them on humans, and you're going to see a Lingering Souls.
Yeah, I'm sure the one on turn 2 was on humans, and I think the next one was on Vampire. The one he played last turn and tapped to cast that Aristocrat.
And so now you do see the Aristocrat coming in the air. Shrout correctly playing around Restoration Angel by playing out some Spirit tokens to sacrifice, and now we are going to see Lingering Souls get flashback here. So he's starting to gum up the board, which is something that this deck does really well.
He did not have a second Aristocrat in his hand. There's actually a second Cavern of Souls, I think, or a third Cavern still in his hand that looked to me for some reason as an Aristocrat. But here we see Josh going back to 20 again. All of Andrew's hard work here to get damage in so far negated by this life gain, which can be very problematic to win this race.
Well, people should be used to that by now. This is Thragtusk and Restoration. Sure. They've been doing this for a long time.
And we saw another angel get drawn, I suspect. I can't tell which kind. It looks like it might be a Serenity. No, that looks like a Restoration Angel to me. Josh's fingers are kind of across the picture, made it a little tricky.
Yeah, and both are bad news, because both cards are absolutely fantastic, both in this deck and in this matchup.
And he does have a land, and so giving him 7 mana available, so he can cast either one. I suspect both could spell the end of this game pretty quickly.
So let's see, as Cho is going to kind of figure out what he wants to do on this turn. What attacks are good? What attacks are poor? What kind of blocking can you do? What kind of racing is there? Because an interesting thing here for Cho, Tom, is that we talk about that version of the Aristocrats that Friedman's playing.
Yep.
And that is wildly different from the version that Shrout is playing.
Sure.
So maybe
not making a presence here.
Yeah, so maybe he might overthink some things about how to attack, how to block, what to do, what cards to play around, which is kind of a unique thing that does happen in Magic. It doesn't happen a ton, but Josh is a well-connected Magic player.
Sure.
There's Jerry Thompson, a bunch of people in the room, Star City team. Works with Brad Nelson, so he knows about this updated list. Does Shrout have the updated list or the old list?
Well, it's an interesting item for me. I think you can pretty confidently put him on the old list.
Or you can maybe put him in a combination of the two. Maybe he melded them together.
But that card just interacts so strange as Blast Stack that it doesn't really make a ton of sense to have those both in your main deck. Your main deck, you really want to be pushing a kind of a linear plan.
Sure.
So this list is pushing Human Aggro as your primary plan, and then follow-up aggro with Aristocrats. The other one's pushing Blast Stack as your primary plan. I think it's pretty hard to get a cohesive deck that's going to be able to do both those things together.
Sure.
I suspect, and Josh knows that. Although we do see, he has the benefit of being able to sit back because he has that second flash creature.
Yep.
He can wait till end of turn to find out.
Yeah, he also has that Township activation as well available to him. So plenty of things to do on Andrew's turn at some point. As you're going to see a Champion of the Parish come into play here. Cho says that's perfectly fine. Both caverns in play for Shrout, by the way, are on Human. Just for you guys wondering at home.
A little odd, but sure. I mean, there are no counterspells to be seen anyway. Interesting, actually. So does he not have? Oh, he cut. Wow, he cut the Boros Reckoners.
Yeah, nowhere to be found here. Very, very heavy human theme. This is basically a Champion of the Parish deck at this point. So this take is very different from both the versions you played and both the version that the Aristocrats Act 2 as it's being deemed this weekend.
It makes this matchup a lot worse not having access to those
Reckoners?
Yeah, the Reckoners. Here we see him losing game one.
Yeah, he just played a Restoration Angel on the unstep, and Shrout
Yeah.
said, I am finished. I cannot beat Thragtusk plus another beast, plus 5 more life. No, thank you, sir. So Josh Cho does win game number 1. No Cho Hawk this weekend, unfortunately.
He's sporting very tame hair.
But he's got a big kid's job now, so he's kind of toned it back a little bit. Maybe as a fiance has made him grow up a little bit as well. Who knows? But Andrew Shrout is down a game here. And I know you said you had some words about his sideboard, sir.
Well, I didn't notice how far he'd switched the deck. So I mean, it's fun to know there's a different deck, right? He's this human aggro deck that happens to have some Aristocrats in it. It's a little more confused in terms of its game plan than maybe our deck was at the PT, although maybe not even. I mean, that's not fair. He actually is a linear human deck.
Yeah, I mean, this is just like a human strategy. It's obviously not as fast as Naya Blitz, but at the end of the day, I mean, if you do a human count here, you see 4 Champion of the Parish, Doom Traveler, Cartel Aristocrat, you see 3 Knight of Infamy, 2 Nearhearth Pilgrims, 2 Skirt Deck High Priest, 3 Silverblade Paladins, and 2 Zealous Conscripts. He is basically a Champion of the Parish deck. He's just maybe a hair slower than your Naya Blitz deck as far as Champion of the Parish decks.
Or even your Green White Humans decks. Yeah. And I think Lyric Souls doesn't fit in here quite as cleanly as it does in other places. I'm not a huge fan of that card in this deck. And then looking at his sideboard, he doesn't really have... So one of the nice parts about our sideboard in Montreal is you can go in a lot of different directions. You can bring in these Sorens, you can bring these Obsidats, go bigger. You can do a lot of different things. Here his sideboard is really kind of reinforcing his current plan. He has 2 Boros Charms, which are just random aggressive cards, being able to do 4, protect yourself from a Wrath. So good in those matchups. 2 Slaughter Games, which I don't typically like in this deck as much. You're fast, you're aggressive, you can kill them before it matters.
Sure.
And I don't want to spend my turn casting Slaughter Games, I want to spend my turn playing more threats and putting pressure on you, typically. Unlike a deck like Jund, where you're fine taking that turn off and disrupting their hand because you're not trying to push this linear theme of kill you as fast as possible. Sure. So it switches gears in kind of in a somewhat strange way. Assemble Legion does fit into this theme. And I've seen versions of this deck which are playing like Assemble Main in the same kind of shell, and I think that makes a lot of sense. Here, we're more of a human aggro deck, but the Assemble Legion certainly gives you some late game there. 2 Mark and Mutiny, which again pushes that sacrifice theme a lot and makes sense there to me. Probably good in this matchup coming in here, take their Thragtusk, hit them, and sack it. Pretty nice strategy. We see that with the conscripts in the main deck. 2 Lick Trickery, probably there just for Lingering Souls Mirrors, is my guess. It's going to be where it's at its best.
Also very good against Naya Blitz.
Sure, oh, yep, definitely true. 2 Beckon Apparition, so probably some random, again, for this matchup, just be able to throw them off their graveyard plans, which is nice. I'm not sure, getting the token out of it is certainly solid. I'm not sure I would want something that's quite so narrow or low impact. Maybe I'd even rather like a Purify the Grave. I think the second flashback effect might be more important than the 1/1 token. But not certain that's true. I can see it going both ways. Gloom Surgeon, that's becoming kind of a ubiquitous card now, and these sideboards are really trying to trump the aggro decks. I like it. I like what it does there. Although I think you already are pretty strong in that matchup because you have these things like Nearhearth Pilgrims, Skirt Deck High Priests, a lot of good early drops that kind of come up the ground. But maybe he feels like he needs a little bit more help there, and that's probably a good angle for that. And finally, Human Frailty, which is a cute early removal spell there.
So, I mean, he definitely has some options. How he's going to sideboard, that's hard to predict.
Yep.
With all these 2-ofs here, what does he want to move out? What does he want to move in? A lot of different directions that he can go. You take a look at Show's sideboard here. Do you see one Abrupt Decay? You're certainly going to see that come in. Just wants to,
absolutely.
Just wants to stymie the rush and interact earlier in the game. A Fiend Hunter, 2 Tragic Slips, an Acidic Slime, 2 Obsidian Ghost Council, 3 Garruk Relentless, 4 Deathrite Shamans, and a Cavern of Souls. So he definitely has some ways to lower his curve, interact earlier, and then be able to cast those Haymakers like your Thragtusk, like your Restoration Angel, and like your Angel of Serenities. So he just needs to lower the curve so we can actually cast these cards.
Yep. So his list, interesting, he has 8 1-mana elves, which is more than I think we're seeing typically these days.
Typically see 6.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think 4 to 6 is more normal. So he can probably board some of those out.
Yep.
Which hopefully he does, otherwise he's going to really get, Electricity could really blow him out. If he leaves in all those guys, that's a lot of targets for Electricity.
Yeah. Should
that come into to Shrout's deck. Also, Acidic Slime, while okay in this matchup, there aren't really these problem permanents you're trying to kill. Maybe a Assemble Legion if it comes in, but otherwise you're blowing up a land in kind of a streamlined deck, and 5 mana is a lot. I can see some of those getting boarded out. Only 1 Creative Behemoth, interestingly, in Josh's deck. I think that'll probably stay in just to give him some kind of a trump card.
Yeah, some sort of out if he gets in a sticky situation, which is something the Aristocrats can certainly do. They can gum the board up really well.
What do you think about boarding out some number of these like Unburial Rites and maybe some of these mulches?
Well, I think that's an easy thing to go to. With Junk Reanimator being a deck that is, public enemy #1, it's very easy for someone to board a Tormouth Script or any other various graveyard hate cards.
Sure.
I mean, this deck has access to white mana, so Rest in Peace is certainly in range here. Of course, we're working with perfect information, so we know that those don't really apply, but I think that I would not be surprised at all to see maybe Cho move some of those out of his deck. I don't think he needs to move out all of the Unburial Rites, but some number.
Rest in Peace, though, is problematic because it shuts off your Morbid.
Sure.
So
that's absolutely true.
Turning off your High Priest and your Tragic Slips is a pretty big deal. So I think that one he probably can count out, but I agree with you, there's a lot of other options available to these color combinations to really go after graveyards.
I mean, we see something as simple here as Beckon Apparition, a card that doesn't see a lot of play. You could even, categorize Purify the Grave in that area as well, as a card that Shrout could have access to. So we'll see how both of these players have sideboard here. They have a lot of options in their sideboard and a lot of different numbers here as both players are looking at opening hands. They are happy, and we are going to see Shrout start off with Champion of the Parish.
Certainly his most aggressive start. Hopefully he has a turn 2 Nightmare to follow that up with and really get the damage going. Looks like he's a Doom Traveler and a Cartel Aristocrat, and then some lands and a Tragic Slip. So not an aggressive hand per se. But interesting. Okay, so we're kicking off with kicking it off for 2.
All right, so here comes the champion. Passing the turn back. Let's see what Cho's able to muster this turn. He did not have a turn 1 mana elf. You saw him draw an Burial Rites for the turn, so he does have at least that.
And no black mana to cast his Grizzly Salvage.
Yeah. So he does have a Centaur Healer in his hand as well, so we'll probably see that come to the party next turn. You see Shrout is going to play a Blood Crypt tapped. He's going to play a Doomed Traveler. Up goes the Champion of the Parish. In for 5 we go. So Cho is already going to be at 13, and he's going to be on the back foot here. And we now have this Tragic Slip queued up with our Aristocrat and our Doom Traveler ready to be sacked. So that's certainly a threatening start here from Shrout. So Cho is going to play a Centaur Healer. He's going to push himself up to 16, move up to a 3/3, and now Shrout is considering, do I want to sacrifice an end of turn? And it looks like he does. Is this something you would do in this spot, or take a draw step?
I would probably take a draw step, although maybe not. Like, you have so many 4-drops you want to lose cast.
Yep.
Well, not that many, I guess. Really just the Aristocrats. He doesn't have Sorens, but I think it makes sense to leave that option open. And here we see just jamming all these humans onto the board.
Cartel Aristocrat number 2, Godless Shrine into play tapped. He's going to come across here for 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 points of damage.
I do like doing that end of turn, because if you draw a Falcon Aristocrat, you really want to be able to cast it right there and just hit him for 1 million.
Just curve out.
Yeah.
Put him in a very, very bad situation, as we're going to see a Woodland Cemetery here from Cho.
Probably a little too late. I mean, we do have a Resto waiting, but that Champion of the Parish is already a 4/4. And those Aristocrats can both become protection from white.
Yeah, I really like one of the things that's kind of neat about this deck and Cartel Aristocrat in general is just kind of the inevitability that it provides. Being able to have that protection, be able to force through those last points of damage, because this is a deck that does not have any reach.
So we just drew another Doom Traveler. So now we can give them both pro, and actually he's just dead. Pro white, take 9.
So he is able to come across here, and Restoration Angel will be able to jump in front of the Champion of the Parish.
Oh, true. He can still chump.
Yeah.
Excuse
so
me.
He can still chump. He's in a very bad situation.
Well, yeah, obviously he isn't dead. I am jumping to some conclusions here.
And so we are going to see that Restoration Angel here. You do see Cho's hand. He's got a mid full of lands and an Unburial Rites that doesn't do very much right now. So we're going to see that Restoration Angel. Okay, so it's going to jump in front here. 5, 6, 7, 8. So Yep, so
Okay.
he's going to let this happen. I'm a little surprised, yeah, that he didn't sack there.
Seems
I
like
agree
Doom
with you.
Traveler would be. I kind of want both my pro color guys so I can
Yeah.
do lethal next turn. I would have
Yeah.
sacked the Doom Traveler there to save it.
Now you're going to see a Forest. We're probably going to see a Thrag Tusk now. We're going to see
just-
Unburial Rites or
just
Centaur
gain three.
Healer. Okay, so he's going to go up to 4. Block the 2 biggest guys so he can get through 2 points of damage. Yeah, if he has that Cartel Aristocrat, he's actually just able to win the game on the spot.
Yep.
So that's a little bit surprising to see Shrout not sacrifice a Doom Traveler or Spirit or anything to be able to save the Aristocrat.
I
Not
think
really
he's-
seeing the importance.
He's realized that here, and I think regretting that decision. It probably won't matter. I think here, just getting in there with his 5/5 and his he sends the whole team here.
Yeah, I mean, he's definitely. I think he's almost assuredly turning everything sideways next turn. We'll see what he draws for the turn, see if it changes anything.
Any
as
spell's
he-
gonna be lethal,
As he
like that
draws
one.
a Mark of Mutiny, and that's certainly going to do it. So we're going to move on to a game 3 here between Shrout and Cho, the Aristocrats versus Junk Reanimator. And as we do that, one thing I wanted to bring up to you, Tom. It's kind of an interesting card comparison here. Not sure these cards are going to play a big role in this matchup, as it is aggression versus a more controlling deck. But you do see Assemble the Legion in the sideboard of Shrout's deck.
Yep.
I know that you played Obsidian Ghost Council in Montreal.
Yes.
Which one of those cards do you feel is better, or maybe there's a certain metagame for one versus the other? But they look like on the surface they're anti-control cards.
Sure. I think. I mean, I instinctively want to say Obsidian just because the card is so powerful and swings games, but and actually it's probably harder to answer as my suspicion. I think now they're playing more solutions to some Legion, things like detention spheres and whatnot that can get them out of that, or even just acidic slimes that are running around. Whereas Obsidian against like Esper, their only way to kill it is devour flesh, and,
Sure.
and you have to not have another creature in play. Both, if they go unanswered, are going to win the game pretty quickly. I'm not sure actually which one I think is better in this matchup.
Was Assemble the Legion a card that you guys ever considered in your testing?
Actually, not to my knowledge. I don't remember hearing anyone talk about it.
Okay.
For us, certainly afterwards, it became very popular and started thinking even into main decks.
Yeah.
Some of these blue-white red decks specifically.
Yeah, that was kind of a surprise to me. This is a card that was like not talked about at all.
Yep.
Outside of being a limited superstar, and then you started seeing make it in the way in the sideboards of blue-white red. Now people start moving it to their main.
Sure.
I think that might be a step too far, playing in the main deck of those blue-white
Yep.
red decks, because the mirror isn't popular enough, nor is Esper. But I'm just curious to see if that was a card that you guys ever came across or came ever walked across in testing.
I did not. Certainly, it never occurred to me. Sam tries all kinds of stuff, so it would not shock me in any sense. But if he had played 10 games with the card, but you'd have to refer that question to the mad genius himself.
Yes, the brewmaster.
But I do think speaking specifically of Assemble Legion and this shell, you do get something going more in the direction of Ben's list. You get just a red, white, black tokens deck.
Okay.
You have all the tokens you already had present: Lingering Souls, Doom Travelers, Sorins, Assemble Legions, Intangible Virtues. That's starting to sound like a deck.
Yeah.
And you throw in the same kind of elements where you have some of the the Sacrifice Outlets, the Boros Reckoners, the Blast Attack still.
Yep.
Blast Attack plays really nicely with Assemble Legion.
Yep, that's true.
Makes it cheap. Next turn you got an extra one coming at you. You have like 5 things coming at you.
Yeah.
You recover very quickly when you have that card in play. I think there's definitely some room there for a merger of ideas and turn this into even more of a dedicated tokens deck than what we've seen there. Here, obviously, Shrout taking in the other direction, going the humans direction. Also, I think it makes some sense. I definitely think what he's doing there is not crazy.
The token direction is interesting because, and I don't want to highlight that too much because obviously Shrout's playing a more human-based one, but the token direction is interesting because I remember that when we saw Sorin revealed in Lingering Souls, everyone was like, oh, black-white tokens, here we go. We got Intangible Virtue, we got Honor of the Pure, we got all these things, and then, obviously it didn't work out the way that I think everyone assumed that it would. And so that kind of went on the back burner. We saw those cards get banned from Block Constructor for that Pro Tour.
Right.
And everyone was kind of wondering when Lingering Souls is going to break through, at least some sort of token deck. Intangible Virtue, Sorin, Lord of Innistrad, those are such powerful cards. And now you see a card like Assemble the Legion as well, kind of maybe pushing that token theme. Maybe that's the card that needs to push it over the top. Who knows?
It certainly could be. And I think there's still a lot of room there for exploration and some clever deck building. So I would not be surprised if someone out there is pushing those directions.
So we are going to see both players taking a look at their 7 cards for Game 3, the final round here, the Star City Games Invitational here in Atlanta. I'm Cedric Phillips, joined in the booth with Tom Martell. You guys can interact with us during this final round here at SCG Live. #SCGINVI for your tweets. We got one more round to go. We'll probably find another match to cut to after this, hopefully. We don't know if we're going to be other feature matches today, but Cho versus Shrout, as Cho does take a look at one more card before he does go down to 6, as will Shrout. So both players are going to be a little handicapped this game. It's been a good first 8 rounds this weekend.
It really has been. We've seen a lot of exciting Magic, some really interesting decks, some novelty or some maybe unexpected stuff in Legacy, which is always fun.
Yep.
And then, these new takes on Aristocrats certainly coming out of a little bit out of left field. I think the deck got kind of forgotten about after it won that GP in Brazil. Maybe didn't get as much press as you'd expect given that. Yeah. Because I think if you look at a lot of the summaries for this format, a lot of them don't really focus on this deck. It was viewed as sort of a one-hit wonder. And even, you look at our team and us talking about the deck afterwards, if you read John Finkel's article on StarCityGames.com, he talks about how this is the worst of the sandblack decks we've played.
Yeah, I do remember that.
And even in my experience, I went X and X3-1 with the deck.
Sure.
Which is certainly a good record, but not an outstanding record.
Yeah, it's not certainly not earth-shattering
at all. And I think, maybe we had like an X2 on the team as well. So it was a good, not great deck. So it's interesting to see it kind of have a resurgence now. I think the metagames become more friendly, certainly, more reanimator, and the deck is interestingly well positioned there.
Yeah, it's very odd to see that deck be so good against Reanimator because it's such a wonky deck. You wouldn't think that this would be the answer to maybe the Angel of Serenity or Burial Rites deck, but it's looking like it is.
It doesn't attack it on direct axes, right? It doesn't go after the graveyards inherently, so that's what you think you have to do to have a favorable matchup there. Yeah. And it doesn't actually kind of completely, perpendicular to that strategy. It is interesting. I mean, I actually like Shroud's Market Mutinies a lot. The more I think about them, I think they fit really well into this matchup, into this format. I think that's a really nice addition. I think is definitely the right direction to take the sideboard if you want to get even better in these kind of matchups. That card I like a lot.
Yeah. So we are going to see both players here for 6 cards. Hopefully only 6. We'll see if they're going to go a little bit lower. Cho is going down. Now, one thing about the Junk Reanimator deck, and obviously Mulligan at 5 does suck, but a deck that does have 8 mana accelerants, Grizzly Salvage, Mulch, it can undo those mulligans.
It can. It definitely can.
It's not impossible. So we'll see what Cho can find here on 5 cards as Shrout is feeling pretty good about himself right now.
A lot of the problems that Cho will be able to present now with a 5-card hand, the games that he gets to kind of steal are ones where he gets to really abuse like a Grizzly Salvage into an early reanimation target.
Yep.
These are the kind of games where Shrout really wants to draw his back an apparition.
Absolutely.
It's much better against a mulligan opponent who probably doesn't have resources to push through you in a traditional way.
Yep.
Than it is against a deck like, would Cho has 7 cards and a good hand. He doesn't even really need it. His graveyard's an afterthought.
Absolutely. So we'll see what Cho's going to be able to find here. And as you did say, Tom, if he is able to find Shrout a back and apparition, it's going to be backbreaking. Where before it would be like good, it's going to be a backbreaker. And it's hard to imagine back and apparition being a backbreaker. But that's what it looks like. It will have the opportunity to be this game, depending on what Cho's draw looks like. Also depends on how good Shrout's mulligan 6 is as well. If he's starting off with Champion of the Parish and a Cartel versus Shrout, we're talking about back and apparition being that backbreaker, that game winner.
Yeah, because Josh just won't have the time to really recover from that.
Now we do see Cho is going to keep his his hand.
Back apparition in hand for Shrout. He's a back apparition. He's a Market Mutiny. It looks like a Falkmouth Aristocrat potentially. Nope, Cavern Souls again. I keep mistaking those two. A Tragic Slip. Not a creature in sight actually. It looks like
it does not look like a very fast hand at all. As we're going to see an Arbor Elf into an Overgrown Tomb. He's going to pass the turn back. So let's see what Shrout's able to draw into here as he draws a Falkmouth Aristocrat.
So we have a body. But this is, we're probably going to slip the elf, is my guess.
Does he have black mana? Okay, so he does with Isolated Chapel. Going to slip that elf. That's going to go bye-bye. Pass the turn back.
Now, if Josh has white mana, we get to see the Centaur Healer come down.
And he does. Souls, and he does have Isolated Chapel. So here's a Centaur Healer. You see the other card in his hand is a Fiend Hunter. So he does have a body. Not the fastest of clocks, but it's better than nothing.
Definitely better than nothing.
The Shroud is going to take a draw step here. He draws a Doomed Traveler for the turn. He's going to play a Cavern of Souls. We'll figure out what that is going to be naming, as he's going to cast a Lingering Souls. Here come your Patch Shaping tokens. Ding-a-ling-a-ling.
Patch Haven, not the traditional Lingering Soul token. if only we had a better token to represent Lingering Souls.
Oh, well, we can only be so lucky. So as we do see Centaur Healer come across here, 3 damage. No blocks from Shrout. You see Shrout's going to draw his Zealous Conscripts. You see he's going to play a 4th land in the form of Sacred Foundry, knocking himself down to 15. And we are going to be going upstairs.
Off to the races. His last 2 draw steps have really been perfect. Falkmouth Aristocrat is the best card in this matchup by a lot. it sets up all your great combos with like your Marker Mutinies, with your Zealous Conscript. Here we're going to have the Fiend Hunter that Aristocrat before it gets out of hand.
Well, he's going to start with a Mulch for the turn. We do know he has that Cavern of Souls in his hand. So Mulch is going to turn over an Arbor Elf, a Thrag Tusk, an Overgrown Tomb, and Evanston's Pilgrim. Overgrown Tomb will go over to Josh's hand, and we'll likely see Cavern of Souls plus Fiend Hunter here. So Josh, not the best of mulches.
No, if you think about it, I mean, there's not really, you can't really have a good mulch, right? Like at this stage, if he mulches into an Unburial Rites, he actually just sets him up to get time walked. Because by that Beckett apparition that's sitting in Shroud's hands, it's almost better for him not to get tricked by that.
So now we are going to see Fiend Hunter attempt to target the Aristocrat.
Not a lot to think about here.
Yeah, we'll see if there's going to be any sacrifice, and there's not going to be. So Shrout's going to untap. He's going to draw. You are going to see him draw. Not a miracle, I promise.
No, an Orzhov Charm. Wow, he's just drawing perfect here. I mean, granted, the deck does have a lot of live draws at this stage.
Absolutely.
But going Aristocrat into Orzhov Charm is really what he wanted there.
It's not so bad. So
now he gets to kill the Fiend Hunter, leaving up mana for Beckon Apparition.
Yep.
Because if Unburial Rite shows up, it's going to definitely try to bring back that Fiend Hunter.
Absolutely.
And then he's going to have Mark Mutiny and Zealous Conscripts ready to go with an active sack outlet in play. It's very hard for a Reanimator deck to come back from this kind of a start.
And so we are going to see Orzhov Charm get cast here. You guys will see that text-heavy Charm with all those modes, but it is going to use that Destroy mode now. Aristocrat's going to come back, and you are going to see Shrout probably give the beatdowns with all the Spirit tokens. He is at 9.
He's taking a lot of damage from his own lands here.
Yeah, and Centaur Healer, that damage it does start to add up after a little while. He can play a little bit more conservatively here because, again, Josh is on that mulligan, and Shrout does know the last card in his hand off of Mulch.
Everyone going in, okay.
Beat down the clock.
Fear no evil. I mean, it makes sense, though. With that Conscripts in hand, I like this line. You don't want to jump there. And here we see, he does draw the Unburial Rites. Gonna get blown up by Beckon Apparition.
You are from the future, my friend. You are actually from the future. See, now you're getting used to it. I called the Terminus a little bit earlier. You call the Unburial Rites. This is how it works. This is how it works. As you do see Cho really considering his options here. Is Shrout going to pull the trigger on that Beckon Apparition right now? You know, it looks like he's taking the damage. And now Cho really considering his options. As you guys do see Beckon Apparition on the screen. Not an all-star. You don't see it a lot.
He's debating Fiend. The worst part here is so Cho's debating Fiend Hunter versus Thrag Tusk and like super in the tank.
Yep. And he's about to get completely obliterated by a Beckon Apparition. So now you're going to see a Spirit Token come into play here, and Shrout is going to untap, and I think Mark and Mutiny makes this a wrap, right? 4, 5, 6, 7.
Exactly.
It is 11 exactly. Shrout is going to untap. He's going to draw his card. We are going to see
a land to make it easier.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, now we're just.
I just want to confirm very quickly.
Trust me, I do not fault the man for spending a little bit of time on the spot. The last thing you want to do is screw up here.
Yeah.
I remember, in against Ifro, in that combat step where he's attacking me, and I know I have my Lethal Blasters Act.
Sure.
I did that math like 14 times.
Yeah,
and
sure.
The last thing I want is camera on me, do the math wrong when you have a win on the board. So here, Shroud takes a little bit of time, double checks his math, sees that it is in fact 11, confirms life totals, and sends it in for the game.
And you are going to see a handshake here. So Andrew Shrout with the Aristocrats, a more human-centric version, does defeat Josh Cho playing Junk Reanimator 2-1, a result we have found to be very common this week. And no matter what the take on the Aristocrats is, it has beaten Junk Reanimator. And this might be the solution that everyone at home and people playing these tournaments have been looking for and waiting for, honestly.
I think that certainly could be the case. It's had a lot more staying power than we may have given it credit for after the PT. Everyone said, oh, it's a metagame deck, it's a one-shot wonder.
Yep.
I think it actually, it's a Sandblack deck pushed to a kind of Sandblack extreme.
Sure.
You see him played in Legacy, his Zombies deck. This had that play on that in Standard, taking incremental effects that maybe individually aren't that powerful. Doom Traveler making a 1/1 token, just making, having a Scourge deck High Priest kind of a card, not really a constructed powerhouse.
Yep.
But the sum of the parts far exceeds the individual contributors in this deck.
Yeah, and that's what